Beruchim haboim. Welcome everyone. We're about to begin Be'ezras Hashem together on Daf Memches Amud Beis, starting with Memches Amud Aleph, 10 lines from the bottom. The Mishnah had stated that when the two people who are restricted to Dalet Amos each, and the two of them are standing, sharing 2 Amos together. That means they're standing 6 Amos apart. So 2 of their Dalet Amos are being overlapped. They can go ahead and bring food, which also is limited to their Dalet Amos, that is on their side of the 2 Amos, and then put it to the shared 2 Amos, and both can partake in that food. But they can't bring from one's 2 Amos to the other side, the Chitzoini of the 2 Amos, the part that's not overlapping. The Mishnah goes on to say that when you have 3 people who are, again, each one restricted to Dalet Amos, where you have a person in the middle who is standing 6 Amos apart from each individual on either side. So thereby, again, there is going to be an overlapping of 2 Amos to the Chitzoini on this either side. Then again, each one can partake in the middle overlapping part. However, the Chitzonios, the 2 sides, cannot partake on their either side, because those are parts that are not shared. Rabbi Shimon goes ahead and says this is compared to 3 chatzeros that are also adjacent to each other, and each one has an opening to one another, also an opening to Rishus Harabim. If there's an eruv between the outer and the inner, so they can go ahead and carry from the outer to the inner, or vice versa. However, the outer ones, the chitzonios, cannot carry one from the next. Says the Gemara, Lamo le lememar. Why does Rabbi Shimon go ahead and say this comparison to 3 chatzeros? Lema davar doime. Why does he say that? Hochika amarlu. This is what Rabbi Shimon was saying leRabbanan. Michti. Is it so? Let us see. Lema davar doime. To what is it compared to? This case of 3 people who have Dalet Amos who are standing one next to the other, whereby we say that the middle one can go ahead and share with the outer ones in the overlapping area. Only the outer ones cannot go ahead and share with each other. To 3 different courtyards, chatzeros, opening to one another. Maishna hasan de fligisu, umaishna hacha de lo fligisu. Ask Rabbi Shimon, why are you arguing in the case of chatzeros and say there we do not allow the outer chatzer to then go ahead and carry to the inner one, the part that they are sharing, that they are adjacent to, that they made an eruv with? Just like the case over here that you agree, when there are 3 people who are standing and have Dalet Amos restricted, and they're an overlapping the middle with the side, with the chitzonios. There we do say that each chitzoni can go ahead and partake with the food in the middle because they share an overlapping area. Why don't you say the same thing when it comes to 3 chatzeros and allow the outer chatzeros to then also carry to the middle and vice versa? In other words, Rabbi Shimon wasn't coming to be mochiach the case of Eruvin. That's accepted. But he's coming to then ask on the Rabbanan who argue on Daf Memches Amud Aleph in the Braisa that say in the case of 3 chatzeros, then we do not allow even the outer chatzer to then go carry to the inner one. Why not? Rabbanan, the Rabbanan will answer, Hasam avshi diurin hachalei avshi diurin. The difference is because in the case of chatzeros, there are many people who reside in those areas whereby they will not be careful. They may go ahead and carry from the outer, not only to the inner, but also to the other outer, and that's prohibited. Whereas over here, in the case of 3 people standing, there they'll be careful to go only from the outer to the inner, but not from the outer to the other outer. The Gemara now quotes the next place in the Mishnah, the next statement that says, when you have 2 chitzonios, as we said before, the 2 chitzonios, they cannot go ahead and carry one to the other. Ve'amai, asked the Gemara though, why not? Kivan de arve luhu chitzonios, bahadi emtsois havi luhu chada. Since the outer chatzeros is making an Eruv with the middle Chotzer, so the same way that they join together with the middle Chotzer, so say that they join with each other as well, and they become all one joined area. So why don't we allow then the outer to then carry to the other outer? Omer Rav Yehuda, kigon shenosna emtsois eruve bezu ve'eruve bezu. Rav Yehuda says because the inner one, he is putting his eruv chatzeros, that means his loaf of bread, in the outer chatzer, number one, and then he puts in the other outer chatzer, number two. So he joins with them, but they don't join with each other. V'Rav Sheishes Omar afilu teima shenosnu eruvin be'emtsois. Even if you want to say the outer one does put in the inner one, still they don't all join together. The chatzer and the outer one does not join together with the outer one as well, because kigon shenosnuhu b'shnei batim, because we're talking about when the outer one places it into one house of the inner chatzer, and the other outer one places it into a different house in the inner chotzer. When on the top of Memches Amud Beis, so comes out, he explains, Rav Sheishes, that therefore the outer ones do not join. Ask the Gemara incredulously, Keman ke Beis Shammai? Does this follow like the opinion of Beis Shammai then? The Tanya, Chamisha shegavu es eruvin v'nasnu b'shnei kelim. If you have 5 different people in one chotzer, and they put their bread, they put their erev chatzeros into 2 different kelim. For example, let's say 2 put into one vessel, one kli, and the other 3 put into a different kli. Beis Shammai oimrim ein eruvin eruv. Ubeis Hillel oimrim eruvin eruv. Beis Shammai is the one who says that it's not good eruv. It's Beis Hillel that says it's a good eruv. So you're saying, Rav Sheishes, that you go like the opinion of Beis Shammai? Now the Gemara understands over here that when you put the eruv in 2 different kelim, it's like you putting in 2 different chatzeros. 2 different batim. So therefore, the Gemara is asking, does that mean to say, Rav Sheishes, you hold like Beis Shammai, and that's why you say it's not a good eruv? How could that be? We pass like Beis Hillel. Answers the Gemara, afilu tema Beis Hillel. You can even say like Beis Hillel, because why? When they put their chatzeros from the outside, from these 5 put their erev chatzeros into the kelim, it's not just into the kelim, it's to different chatze, into the different batim. Because adkan lekoma Beis Hillel hasam ela b'shnei kelim. When is it there that in the 5 people who then Beis Hillel says it's a valid eruv, is when they put it into 2 different kelim, but it's at the same house. That's when the 5 people join together. They're in the same chotzer. They put 2 in one kli and 3 put in a different kli, but it's in the same bias. So therefore, Beis Hillel says it's a good eruv. But in our case, aval b'shnei batim loy. But in our case, like Rav Sheishes is maintaining, when you take the eruv chatzeros from the outer chotzer and you put it into one bias in the inner chotzer, and the other outer chotzer puts it into a different bias in the inner chotzer, then it's not going to be valid. Even Beis Hillel will agree with that, and therefore Beis Shammai goes like Beis Hillel. So it comes out that we have 2 different explanations why they don't all 3 join together. The question was, why don't we have the outer join with the other outer? Granted, the outer is joining with the inner, but why don't we say that the outer is joining with the other outer? To which we had 2 different explanations. Rabbi Yehuda said, because the middle chatzer, they place their erev chatzers in the outer chatzer, number 1, and place a different erev chatzers in the other outer chatzer. So therefore, they do not all combine. Rav Sheishes had a different approach. He said the reason why they don't all combine is because he says, even though the outer chatzer is placing into the inner chatzer, but they're both putting into 2 different batim in the inner chotzer, whereby they don't combine with each other. Omar le Rav Acha berei de Rav Avia le Rav Ashi le Rav Yehuda kashya u le Rav Sheishes kashya. That which Rav Yehuda said is going to be a kasha, and that which Rav Sheishes says is going to be a difficulty. As he explains, le Rav Yehuda kashya the Omar Kegoin Shenosna and Sois Eruva Bezu ve'eruva Bezu. The middle Chatzar placed its Erev Chatzeros in each outer Chatzar. V'kivan de Erva be'emtsois bahadi chitzoina havilechado. Since the middle one placed a Eruv in both outer Chatzeros, they really should combine to be one, allowing the two outer Chatzeros to join. Because after the middle Chatzar places an Erev Chatzer in outer Chatzar number 1, so then they combine, whereby when they put the Erev Chatzers in the other outer Chatzer, then they're a shaliach. The middle Chatzar is a shaliach on behalf of the first outer Chatzar to then combine with the second outer Chatzar, whereby they should all be combined. So that's a kasha on the shita of Rav Yehuda. Rav Sheish's kasha dehave chechamisha sheshruyim bechatzer achas v'shochach echad mehem v'lo eruv de'asr adadi. It's going to be compared to 5 people. 5 people want to make an eruv in one chatzer. So what happens if one is not joining the other one? Then the other ones are prohibited to carry from their house to the chatzer. It's not going to be a valid erev chatzeros. So too over here, when Rav Sheshes says that the outer one is placing playing his Erev Chatzeros in the middle Chatzer, so the fact that is not going to be joining with the other outer one, in other words, it's only placing in the middle one, so therefore it will prohibit even the carrying to the middle one, not just from an outer one to the other outer one, but even the outer one to the middle one. Omar le Rav Ashi. Lo li Rav Yehuda kasha, lo Rav Sheshes kasha. I can explain that it's not a kasha not on Rav Yehuda and not on Rav Sheshes. As follows: Le Rav Yehuda lo kasha kivon de ervo lo emtsois bahadi chitzoino. It's not a kasha because since the middle one made an eruv with the outer one, the shtayim chitzoinos, and the 2 outer ones bahadi adali lo irvu did not then combine with each other. Then Galia daite de bahane chale bahalone chale. In other words, when the middle one put his Erev Chatzeros in one outer Chatzer, that was his combination with that outer Chatzer, Chatzer number 1. But the other outer Chatzer, Chatzer number 2, that it was Megala, that the first outer Chatzer was not interested in combining with the second outer Chatzer. So therefore there was never a shlichus, whereby the middle Chatzar combines with the first outer Chatzar and combines separately with the other outer Chatzar. But the 2 outer Chatzar do not combine with each other. That which they said that residents join in Erev Chatzeros, that's lahakil, to allow those in the Chatzar to then carry from their house to the Chatzar. That was to be makil. And therefore, over here, when they combine the middle Chatzar and the outer Chatzar, to allow the outer Chatzar to then go ahead and carry in the middle Chatzar, they're makil. But to say that would be a chumrah, that they are true residents, to then aser the outer Chatzeros, not only on each other, but also to disallow, to then prohibit the outer Chatzar to carry in the inner Chatzar, that's certainly not. We were not machmir in that way. They're not residents to be machmir. And therefore, that's not a kasha, not on Rav Sheshes either.